So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Julia Jackson, oral and maxillofacial surgeon, founder of the International Implant Institute, educator, mentor, and someone who has helped countless dentists grow throughout their careers. Dr. Julia, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, Ray. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How about you? What about you?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad to be on your podcast this morning. It's really exciting to have an opportunity to speak to your audience and allow them to get to know me.
Amen. So before we start, I would just like to start with the fact that one thing that stood out to me while preparing for this conversation is that people often see the finished product. They see the successful surgeon, they see the doctor, they see the institute, but they don't always see the journey behind it. So I would actually love to start from there.
The journey behind becoming an oral surgeon.
Yeah.
Wow, Ray, that's a lifetime. That's a long conversation. To become an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, generally people take their first 4 years of education in dental school, and then they decide whether or not they want to specialize. To specialize in oral and maxillofacial surgery, you can either go one route where it's a 4-year program and it's surgically intense, or you can take a 6-year program where you get the 4 years of surgical residency, but you also have an opportunity to get an MD, a medical license. So I ended up doing the 6-year route. I did not get the medical license. I received 2 additional years of surgical training and really just emphasized and captivated my attention that surgery was absolutely where I wanted to be and who I wanted to be, and really just helped me formulate an understanding of all the surgical aspects of oral and maxillofacial surgery. So I finished my 6-year program in 2011. And so I've been in private practice for the last 15 years.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
one word that kept coming up while I was preparing for today was confidence. And it's interesting because I've spent years working around healthcare business, doctors, surgeons, and practice owners. And confidence seems to be like it impacts everything. So, what do you think people misunderstand about confidence?
I think people misunderstand about confidence that it is something that you exude. It's not something that people tend to shy away from. Confidence is something that's going to come from you um, naturally. It doesn't have to be bold. It doesn't have to be boastful. It doesn't have to be gregarious. It just needs to be subtle, and it needs to be present. You can't exactly be shy. You have to be forthcoming with your ideas and the way that you intend to move forward. You have to move with purpose. I think confidence is really just the putting one step in front of the other, taking the risk of making progress, quite frankly.
I really love that distinction, to be honest. So, because I really think many people assume confidence comes first, almost like, oh, once I feel confident, then I'll add. But I would say in reality, it seems the opposite. Action creates confidence. What do you think?
She creates confidence. I think action underlines that confidence is present. I think confidence is not necessarily the action, it's what comes before the action. So you have to be confident to get to the action. Um, and the way that you feel that way, or the way that you can maneuver that way, is by thinking first. Think before you act. You just have to take your time. There's no rush. Really be calculating and really accentuate your pre-planning so that when it's time to take action, well, by all means, you've already discussed it, you've thought about it, you've played it over and over in your mind. The
Yeah,
confidence will come naturally because the planning process was there first.
true. And this actually reminds me of something I see often in healthcare. A lot of practices, they think they have a lead problem. Many times, they actually have a confidence problem. The patient is there, the opportunity is there, but uncertainty creates hesitation. And what's fascinating is that patients may not understand implant dentistry, but they absolutely understand confidence. They understand certainty, they understand the trust. So this brings me up to my next question, which is, do you think patient can sense hesitation?
Absolutely. Not only can they sense hesitation, but they can sense that you do not know what you're doing. And so here's how you can completely erase that. Just explain what you're doing. And there will be a point where the patient has had enough. I mean, they don't really want to know all the details. They just want to know what you're doing, how long is it going to take, is it going to hurt?
Yes.
Perhaps what are some of the materials that are used? Why is this happening? What are the process or the sequence of events to expect after? The way that you build confidence with patients is explain to them, to their comfort zone, what is going on. And as you are explaining and as you're speaking about it, you will build confidence. It'll then just be another mode for you to say in your own mind, oh, that's right. I got to do this step. I got to do this step. I got to do this step. And as you're explaining it to them and thinking about it out loud, or like thinking about it as you're speaking about it, you will start to see that they believe you and they trust you. And the confidence is built automatically in the course of the conversation. So they may even interrupt and say, oh, I have a question. And you can answer the question, or maybe you don't know the answer to the question, but the confidence is built with the communication and the camaraderie of understanding what you all are doing. It can be as simple as, well, how are we going to take the tooth out, which will build their confidence with you, to then you advancing to, okay, well, we're going to be able to place an implant, or we can't place an implant, but we have a backup plan, which is going to be socket grafting. So you always want to be able to explain, what are your steps? What do you expect to happen in the event that this doesn't happen exactly as you expect it? What is your backup plan? These all build confidence with you and the patient, and eventually confidence leads to trust.
I completely agree with this. I think trust is one of the most underrated growth drivers in healthcare. Okay, like you've spent a huge portion of your career helping other dentists grow. I'm curious, what made you decide to teach rather than simply practice?
Well, strange enough, Ray, I always love practicing, and I really get wonderful gratification and satisfaction from every procedure, every interaction with patient. I love from start to finish thinking it through, planning what to expect, um, enjoying the atmosphere, always having some music going, just feeling a good vibe, positivity. And then what started to happen is assistants started to say, because I was always the person who trains new assistants. For some reason, my seniors would be too stubborn or too uh, rushed or just not interested. And so they would have me train assistants. And what would start to happen is assistants would say, Dr. Jackson, you're such a good teacher. You could teach anyone, any of these procedures so easily. And I think, oh no, you already know the vocabulary, you already know the
Yeah.
procedure. I'm just trying to help you put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that patients appreciated understanding and being educated, and being able to explain what's happening in its own way is being a teacher. And so I went from performing the procedure to being able to explain the procedure, which easily is what a teacher is. We used to have a term, see one, do one, teach one. So once you've done it enough And once you've explained it enough, well, by all means, I could easily explain it to anyone who is familiar with the concepts.
And do you think that mentorship accelerates growth?
That what?
Mentorship accelerate growth. Do you think that?
Mentorship accelerates growth?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think that a good mentor is really just someone who
Because
can really nurture.
sorry, what? Yeah.
A mentor is someone who can really nurture what's already there. I mean, I feel as though sometimes people underestimate their own capabilities. And so I believe that mentors just supply the courage for the next steps. They really just kind of lay out very easily that you already know what you're doing. You just need the courage to apply the steps on the patient. I mean, it's repetitious and repetition. It's doing this over and over. When you explain it to every patient, then after a while, it's you have the same conversation every day. You're starting to get more and more confident. So I do believe mentorship will lead to growth and will lead to being more and more productive with regards to confidence.
The reason I ask this is because, like, whenever I look back, almost every other successful person I've worked with, there was usually someone who shortened the learning curve. Everyone, like any other person, which I can pick up any of the clients I've ever worked with, they all have been like taught in a way, all those people, and they all gave me the same response that while doing this, after doing all these things, it shortened their learning curve. So I also like completely agree with you. Another question which I had was, what's a conversation you find yourself having with dentist over and over again?
That this was never taught in dental school. And that unfortunately, all of the training that we go through so early in our understanding of dentistry, that the building of confidence is never, there's no building confidence 101. There's no empowering you to be able to be successful. We only have, well, I don't know if you can do it, or maybe you should try again, or negative terms that make dental students feel less than. And so once you get out of dental school and you're supposed to be motivated and energetic and liberated,
Yeah.
you are, but you're not confident. And quite frankly, what we've seen is that when people get out of dental school, they really don't have any, they're not very fast at what they do. They're really slow. They're taking their time. They're checking their steps. They don't have any kind of understanding that this is easy now. You should be moving forward. And so that's where mentorship comes in. Certainly, just a whisper in your ear. You got this. You can do this. You've learned this. You know this. Or just the opportunity to have someone to call and reference. Hey, Dr. Jackson, I read this chapter of the book, or I went to this class and I took this quiz, but I really don't know how to implement it live on a patient where there's bleeding and saliva, and what about if the tissue is tough? So there are so many different elements of trying to get into private practice that you're bombarded with, and lack of confidence is not going to be helpful. We need you to feel boosted and elevated, motivated, secure. And I think that when you have someone to talk to about it and kind of run ideas through, treatment planning, best practices, patient selection, all of those come into play when you're trying to make a decision so that you can have not only confidence, but a positive result. We don't want you to be overconfident and now it looks a mess and you've got, implants every direction. You need to be thoughtful and specific with your intentions. I think a mentorship such as ours is very helpful because we break it down into small bite-sized pieces.
Yes. And that's interesting because if you're hearing the same concern repeatedly, it probably means a lot of people watching this are dealing with the exact same thing. What people don't talk about. Let's talk about something people don't normally discuss publicly. What something like implant dentists worry about but rarely admit. What is that thing?
They rarely admit that they don't know how to read a CT scan. They rarely admit that they don't know a good patient selection criteria, that they really are just looking to place an implant for the first person who agrees that they want one. And that's not how it works. The general dentists rarely admit that they are concerned about being sued. Really, they're just scared that someone's going to sue them. And in fact, if you go through the logical steps of treatment planning, CT evaluation, diagnostic imaging, talking to a mentor, going over the 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the steps that we're going to take, including profound anesthesia, including what is your flap design? Are you going to include the gingiva cuff, or are you going to make a full thickness flap? It includes what kind of sutures are you going to use? What kind of local are you going to use? What's your, background music or calming ability for the patient? How are you going to soothe the patient's anxieties? So a lot of the things that the general dentist doesn't think about is the implementation. And so they lack confidence because they haven't been able to do this actually for a patient. And so sometimes they're hesitant that they're going to be sued because they haven't had enough practice. Well, in fact, you don't have to have practice. You just need to have someone to talk to about it before you jump out there.
And I think that's incredibly important. Also, because of social media, it tends to make everyone look confident all the time. We all live in a world where information is everywhere. Courses, YouTube, social media, AI, education content has never been more accessible. And yet, so many professionals still feel stuck. And this is something which a lot of people, even I work with, they have told me the same thing. So, why do you think information alone isn't enough?
Well, for surgery, information alone is not enough because there's other variables. I mean, surgery has unpredictable results. Surgery has bleeding unexpectedly. Surgery has saliva that's accumulating. Surgery has not the right size guide that you need at the exact moment that you need it. Surgery is the epitome of a moment of not having all the information until you have all the information. Like, it has to happen at that moment. You can plan for surgeries, but once you're in them, then you realize that there's so many things that are happening that you didn't expect. So information in a textbook is great. Pictures in a textbook, fantastic. Even our online courses where you can sit back in the leisure of your own home, relax, comfortable, and feel confident that you're watching the procedure, an observation of the surgery. Certainly, you are at a leisure, but when you're in there and you feel the little drip of sweat down your back, the light is hot, the assistant is tapping their foot, wondering what's taking so long. The patient doesn't want to stay open as big as you need them so that you have direct visualization. You're using your 15 blade and you're trying to reflect the gingiva, and it's tenacious and it's holding on to the bone, and you don't want it to rip, and then there starts to be bleeding. I mean, that's the cutting edge part of being in the moment and trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I make this work? You can certainly pray by all means, but you want to know that you have perhaps our chairside concierge service as an option. I could be sitting right there with that general dentist at that prime moment and say, hey, doc, you got this. Let's get some more anesthesia. We can, cause hemostasis. Or, hey, doc, you're doing really well. Perhaps you should reevaluate
Yes.
your guide. It doesn't seem to be flush on the bone as it was intended, so that you can have precision and utilization of your pilot drill effectively for your osteotomy. So, this is the time where that kind of critical thinking takes place. And so we do provide chairside concierge surgical service. We do provide opportunities where live patients are treated, so that you can be into the mix of treating patients and not just sitting back at home watching the online courses. Don't get me wrong, they are instrumental in kind of a stair step learning approach or a pathway approach. You start with your online courses, you lead to perhaps a hands-on course with model surgery. It could then lead to you saying, you know what, I'm feeling more confident. I feel like I could do this. Perhaps you hire us for a chairside concierge service. So now that I'm coming to your office to place multiple implants with you, or very well, maybe the next step is that you do come to Cancun with us so that we can place implants on live patients. So we do have a pathway. We do have a ability to take one step at a time. And I do think that this is a wonderful mentorship, lifelong mentorship opportunity for any general dentist.
Yes. And I really think that's a really important distinction. Having permission and having to perform surgery are not the same thing. And
Oh, no.
from everything which we have talked about by now, I want to know, if somebody came to you tomorrow and said, I want to become more confident in implant dentistry, but I don't know where to start, what path would you recommend?
Well, I would say first, before I just jump in, I would ask them more questions about what have they already done. So if they say they want to be more confident in implant surgery, that's a very generic statement. Like, that's like me saying, I want to be more confident in driving a boat. Well, have you ever been on a boat? Do you know how to swim? If you've been on a boat, were you driving or were you behind as a passenger? Where are you on your implant journey? Because that's one of the beauties of our program, is that we have multi-specialty faculty. So we have a periodontist on faculty. We have multiple oral surgeons on faculty. We have prosthodontists on faculty. So wherever the general dentist is starting, we can level them up. If they're starting with, I don't know how to turn the motor on, to, well, I'm ready to now place multiple implants and I want to learn how to do bilateral sinus lifts. We can help them where they're starting, where they are at. That's a very unique part of our program, is that we can help of a range of general dentists coming from fresh out of dental school. We do recommend that they place at least 10 implants before we take them to Cancun, because we want them to have some type of system. What implant system are they using? Are they comfortable with? What steps and what are they accustomed to? Are they using guides or are they doing freehand? We want them to have some baseline. If they have no baseline, then we would recommend our 5-day hands-on model surgery course. It includes ACLS, BLS, and PALS. It includes direct observation of cases. It includes multiple implant placement, maxillary and mandibular implants on model surgery and socket grafting. So, and one of the highlights of the introductory course, it brings to mind a student of ours, is suturing workshops. Because by all means, by the time the week is over, we've done so much suturing, so much repetition, knowing which kinds of sutures, what's different kind of needles, how do you hold your suture. So we really do try to emphasize the fundamentals in the 5-day course. So if they're coming to us needing just like that fresh start, sometimes people who come to us for the fundamental course are seasoned general dentists that really just want to refresh their memory. Maybe they've been out of the realm of implantology. Maybe that wasn't what they were doing, and now they want to bring that high yield case to their practice so that they can see practice growth. They can start to see, okay, if I place one implant, or if I do socket grafting, or if now we're placing multiple implants, you'll see your practice start to grow. You'll see your production start to grow. And of course, you'll see your confidence start to grow. Then at that point, absolutely come to Cancun with us. We can do all on 4 cases. Again, like I mentioned, we can do sinus lift cases. It can be much bigger cases. There's an element of placing implants in the anterior maxilla that is an advanced procedure. There's the additional angulation of anterior maxillary implants that's not considered for your regular mandibular molars or your regular maxillary molars. So sometimes participants come to Cancun just for that additional advanced surgical exposure and VIP treatment.
Let's talk about Cancun more, because that is something I'm genuinely excited about. So throughout this conversation, you have mentioned confidence, mentorship, experience, exposure, and in many ways, it sounds like Cancun brings all those things together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know more about this.
Mm-hmm. So Cancun, gosh, it's so wonderful. We've had such good positive feedback, really eye-opening experiences. General dentists flourish when they bring their assistant with them, because the assistant also gets to be completely immersed into what are the sequences of the instruments, how to best manage the patient. Cancun just really is an eye-opening experience for all participants. And it's a learning and collaborative experience, because don't get me wrong, there are going to be some practitioners, general dentists, that have placed multiple implants and they feel confident. They feel, quite frankly, overconfident. But when they get an opportunity to work with a surgeon hand in hand, they may pick up small, we call them pearls of wisdom, where, for instance, you don't necessarily have to utilize bone graft in a bottle when you can harvest graft material from the patient themselves. Just small little tricks of the trade where you didn't realize it, how much bone you can take off of the bit of the drill, so that you can use that type of bone material to mix in with your autogenous bone graft or your alloplast, or quite frankly, your xenoplast. So it just gives you an opportunity to for lack of a better word, rub elbows. We're all in there. We're learning from each other. I always learn something from the general dentist. Maybe there's a technique that works better in their hands. So it's a mutual learning experience. The food is covered by the tuition. The hotel is covered by the tuition. All materials, implants, bone grafts are covered by the tuition. So it really is an all-inclusive opportunity for general dentists to feel completely immersed into placing implants on live patients. At this point, we're not even talking about models. So any model surgery, you would have passed that by now. This is really getting the nuts and bolts. How do you do bone reduction prior to the procedure? Any bony exostosis, quite frankly, any tori reduction, alveoloplasty, knowing how much bone needs to be reduced so that you don't leave a person in a circumstance where they don't have enough bone. So this really is a dive in, full day of surgery Thursday, full day of surgery Friday. We do not finish until the last patient is treated. Multiple patients are treated. I mean, it's just wonderful. It's like boot camp oral surgery
That is
in Cancun.
Simply like just watching a video online. It is very different experience.
No, this is in it.
Walk me through those 2 days.
Oh yeah.
In detail.
Okay, so we always receive a detailed a detailed treatment plan of the patients that we expect. So let's say we expect 9 patients, okay? And so every participant will receive the treatment plan for the 9 patients. That means that they understand the medical history, they will understand the x-rays, the diagnostic imaging, they will understand what is anticipated to happen. Is it full mouth extraction, or is it multiple implants placed? Is there tori that needs to be reduced? Whatever is necessary. We will also have information about what's the final result, what kind of restoration is going to be placed. Is this going to be a bridge? Is this going to be a hybrid? How is this going to be restored? And we also talk about what exactly to expect for post-operative instruction. So all the 9 patients are fully vetted so that we understand exactly what to expect, including pictures. We want to see what this patient looks like before we even get on the plane to Cancun. So at that point, everyone knows what patients are going to be present. When we arrive on Wednesday afternoon, everyone checks into the same hotel. Wednesday afternoon is kind of like unwind, meet and greet, maybe some cocktails, whatever we need, just so that we can feel socially accepted. We all stay in the same hotel. Sometimes people bring a spouse, or more importantly, bringing the assistant is very, very helpful. We've had some very high success rates when people will bring their assistant. And so by the Wednesday evening, people are settled in, and we haven't delineated whose patient is whose yet. At that point, you've just seen all the patients. You will meet the faculty on Wednesday afternoon, Dr. Anarobi, Dr. Atia, of course, myself, and any other faculty that may be available for that particular course. And then Thursday morning, once we put the patients on the blackboard, we do have didactics. Dr. Anarobi goes over how to place the prosthesis on the implants that we're going to place. Dr. Muhammad Atia discusses complications, or any complications that could occur. And of course, I give a presentation on atraumatic extraction, bone reduction, and anything to do with immediate implant placement and socket grafting. And then we decide who's going to take which patient, because at that point, we know the students and we know what they're trying to do and what they're trying to learn. If a student is trying to do sinus lifts, well, then we will have a patient for sinus lifts. If a student is interested in doing a mandibular implant placement, like 2 implants to hold down a hybrid, well, then we will match them up for that particular case. So now at that point, we have the cases identified for the student, which is the general dentist. And one of the wonderful parts to our program is the restorative dentist. The person who's going to do the restoration is the dentist's assistant. So the restorative dentist who speaks Spanish, that's going to put the crowns on the implants that this dentist is placing, will be the assistant throughout the entire procedure. So that way we can have the camaraderie and collaboration of, well, I don't know if I can restore it if it's placed in this angulation, or I'm not sure if it's best restored if we put 2 instead of 1. So this gives an opportunity for the surgeon to speak to the restorative dentist so that we can have a continuity of care and the best results for the patient. After that goes on and the procedure has taken place and perhaps we're finished, well, then we have another patient and another patient and another patient. And so by the time all of the 9 patients have been treated over the course of the 2 days, I've only gotten positive reviews that people feel empowered. They feel absolutely more confident. They feel like they've had an opportunity to learn firsthand. How would a surgeon do this? How would a prosthodontist place implants, prosthetically driven implant placement? So they really feel as though they've gotten an opportunity, a VIP tutorial, quite frankly, of how to place implants for long-term success and socket grafting for predictability. So after the 2 days, we have only had positive reviews. People have an opportunity to stay until Saturday if they choose. The hotel is open and available. It's not far from the beach if that's what they're going to do to unwind and relax. It's always good to get Mexican cuisine and guacamole and sometimes a margarita. So it's really just an entire infusion of the culture and a wonderful implant boot camp, quite frankly, and an experience that they will never forget.
Dr. Jackson, what transformation do you hope attendees experience by the time they leave? And also, who would benefit most from the attending?
Mhm. I know for sure those that will benefit most are those that are placing implants now. Because sometimes people that are placing implants now, they think they know what they're doing, but when they see it done a different way, it just makes them more and more successful. I think that this is really key for general dentists who want to refine their skills. They want to master prosthetically driven implant placement. They want to not refer implants out anymore. There's no reason for them to continue to refer implants to oral surgeon or to periodontist. This is for the general dentist who's ready to step outside of the socket, who's ready to make a bold move in the right direction to master high yield procedures. This course is for general dentists who think they can do it, but they're not really sure. And they want to have their surgical assistant by their side so that the surgical assistant can see step by step what instruments are necessary. And also not feel like they have to be the person to teach their assistant because they may not know what to teach their assistant. And so we are here to help their assistant help them be more productive. This course is really for an oral surgery resident who wants to get more practice because sometimes even in residency, the seniors will take all of the cases. This is for a periodontal resident, a prosthodontics resident. I feel like this is really for anyone who's ready to move forward in implant placement, multiple implant placement, and really just build their confidence.
And on the flip side, who probably isn't ready yet?
It's not exactly ready for someone who graduated yesterday. You need to have placed 1, 2, maybe 10 implants before you sign up for our course. If you just graduated from dental school this summer, then the course for you that we have to offer is our 5-day hands-on model surgery. Because that way we can manipulate it and move it around. We can look at the mandible, we can see the jaw. We're not involving saliva, no spit, no blood. We're not involving the airway. We're not having the extra steps of needing to retract the soft tissue. I believe that general dentists who've just recently graduated will excel in our 5-day course. With our suture workshops, our IV placement workshops, our multiple implant placement workshops, socket grafting workshops. We have one of those 5-day courses coming up in July also. It's the 27th through the 31st. So Cancun is for an advanced practitioner. Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Dr. Julia, it's been more than almost 8 or 9 months since I know you. And I had discussed like even the issue which I had with my own dental problem. I've already discussed this with you. And the way you have explained this to me. So about like in this whole 10 months, 8 months since I know you, I know it for a fact that you're the kind of person who likes to teach people and make sure that they get something out of it. So from the beginning of this conversation, I had this question. Let's imagine if I gave you a room with 100 dentists tomorrow what's the one thing you want every single one of them to understand before they left?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So what I was saying is, if I gave you a room with 100 dentists tomorrow, what's the one thing you'd want every single one of them to understand before they left?
Or they what?
Before they left,
About International Implant Institute?
yes.
I would want every general dentist, all 100 of them, to know that we are here to help. We are sincere in our passion to teach. We are very much open for questions. We're open for dialogue about treatment planning and an interpretation of CBCT scans. We are willing to kind of hash out all scenarios so that finally we get to the one that feels most comfortable to that practitioner. I would want all 100 to know that if they ever felt like they didn't know who to call, that they could always call us for mentorship, for questions, for just kind of review of some of the anatomy. I would want them to know that we are here to provide a service unlike any other, quite frankly. We are really just here to be the type of people that can be helpful. I don't think that everyone knows that there's help there. Sometimes people have to live this life on their own and they don't have anyone to go to run ideas by or know how it should be done because I've done it 1,000 times at this point. So, or more than 1,000. So, it's important that you have a mentor who's done what you want to do. You can ask anyone questions, but you should be asking the right questions to the right person. And I want them to know that we are absolutely the right team to be asking implant questions, treatment planning questions, complication questions, sinus lift questions, bone grafting questions, prosthetically driven implant placement questions. We are the team that can help any general dentist feel empowered and capable because we've done it so many times and we're very successful. And we want them to feel just as leisurely as we do, quite frankly.
I think that's actually the perfect place to end. One thing that stood out to me throughout this conversation is that confidence isn't something people magically wake up with. It's built through mentorship, through experience, through education, through repetition. And what I appreciate is that you have created multiple pathways for dentists to do exactly that. We can talk about the course, we can talk about course and the bundle bags, the can and everything. And whether that's through online courses, educational courses, mentorship opportunities, or the life experience in Cancun. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, Robin.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks for this opportunity.
Dr. Julia, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for everything you are doing to help dentistry.
Yay.
To everyone watching, thank you for spending time with us. We'll see you in the next conversation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. I think we can pause the